Prudent Scholars in association with Goa Headmasters Association.
A very pleasant day to you all, students. Let me start with Robert Frost's best quote. In 3 words, let me sum up everything that I've learned about life. Life goes on. Today I'm going to be teaching you the poem Dust of Snow, written by Robert Frost. Before I start the poem, students, let me ask you one simple question. Have you ever felt depressed, sad, disappointed, dejected, or sometimes very hopeless? In this situation, what have you done? Have you kept yourself in the same state of mind, or have you worked on being happy and changing yourself into a positive person? I'm sure many of you have gone through these negative emotions. Most of the time you felt hopeless, dejected, sad, and you have turned either to a family member or to a very best friend whom you can confide in and try to speak out whatever you are going through. And that has made you feel better. That simple action of a friend, a kind gesture, little bit of kindness does help us to come out of what we are experiencing in life and definitely makes us feel much better. A simple action definitely can change our life. Today let us take this poem, Dust of Snow, written by Robert Frost. Now before I start the poem, students, let me explain to you about this well-known poet, Robert Frost. Well, he's my favorite poet too. Robert Frost was an American poet. His work was initially published in England before it was published in America. He is highly regarded for his realistic depictions of rural life and his command of American colloquial speech. His work frequently employed settings from rural life in New England in the early 20th century, using them to examine complex social and philosophical themes. One of the most popular and critically respected American poets of the 20th century, Frost was honored frequently during his lifetime, receiving 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry. He became one of America's rare public literary figures, almost an artistic institution. He was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal for his poetic works in 1960. Now students, let us look at the theme of this poem. Dust of Snow is a small poem written by the famous American poet Robert Frost. The poem is set on a wintry day. In the first stanza, the poet describes a simple natural happening. The snow is falling heavily. The snowy flakes have covered the top of the trees. All right, it's a winter's day. The poet is there standing under a hemlock tree. The movement and alighting of a crow on that tree makes the dust of snow fall on the poet. The crow, a symbol of ill omen, and the hemlock tree associated with a person is not auspicious. However, in the second stanza, the falling of snowflakes and the scene leaves a tremendous effect on the mental state and the mood of the poet. So far, the day has been quite gloomy for the poet, all right, and this brings the desired change in his mood. The way the dust of snow was thrown on the poet makes all the difference. It gladdens his heart. He realizes that the falling of snowflakes on him has saved the day. Now he has no regret, as the whole day has not gone waste. The moments of the snowfall and their effect have saved the day. They have brought a change in his mood and gladdened and uplifted his spirits. So students, I think you have understood the theme of this poem. That is, a simple action can definitely change our lives. Let us go on to the next part of the poem. As I read the poem, students, I want you to take your textbooks and follow as I read it aloud to you. Dust of Snow by Robert Frost. The way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree, has given my heart change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. Now let us take the first stanza of this poem. The way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. Here the lines seem very simple, but there's a whole lot underlying beneath it. The crow is commonly regarded as a symbol of death and fear. It is not associated with goodness. In these lines, we see a complete irony where it is doing a good deed by shaking the dust of snow on the poet. Note, the poet did not choose a maple tree, he did not choose an oak tree, or any other tree, but he has chosen a hemlock tree. Why a hemlock tree? I'm sure this question crops up in your mind. The hemlock tree is taken by the poet because hemlock is a poisonous tree. And the poet was going through some negative feelings, all right? So the crow again is a symbol of bad, as in we perceive it like that. If you perceive something to be negative, it happens negative. But most of us might look at a crow as a black thing, which has got a very unpleasant sound, all right? If you look at the hemlock tree, it is supposed to be a poisonous tree. Well, in this picture, you can see the crow sitting on the hemlock tree, all right? And there's dust of snow, which actually falls on the poet as he's sitting beneath the tree. I've also shown you the picture of the hemlock tree during the winters. It's completely covered in white. But in summers, you'll see the tree totally green in color, all right? And that's how the hemlock tree looks like. So the way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. The poet says, the way the crow shook down the dust of snow has made all the difference. What was the poet feeling? He was feeling hopeless. He was feeling sad. We do not know why. For reasons best known to him, he was in a very depressed mood. But when he stood under the hemlock tree, all right, there came a crow which alighted on the hemlock tree. And the way the crow shook down the dust of snow on the poet made all the difference. So what happens to the poet? Does he remain in the same mood? Let us go on to the next stanza. Has given my heart change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. So here we come to the part where the poet feels much better. As I've told you in the previous stanza, the poet was feeling very hopeless, all right? He was feeling depressed, upset about something really bad that happened in his life. Many times we also go through the same problems in our lives, yeah? We experience some bad thoughts, sometimes we experience bad moments, all right? And we want to talk to someone just to relieve our stress. We want to get out of the negative feeling. Of course, there are some who might want to brood in that same negativity, which spoils the entire day. Maybe you will experience a headache, you will experience something very uneasy in your body, a stomach pain, and this feeling remains throughout the day if it is not sorted out. But here you see the poet was very lucky. In what way he was lucky? The way the crow shook down the dust of snow on the poet made all the difference to him. And he says, save some part of a day I had rued, which means the rest of his day was spent in a better way. Now let us move on to the next part. Well students, I think both the stanzas are well explained to you. You have understood the first and the second stanza. Now what is the meaning of rude regret? He says, I'm happy that I spend the rest of the day in a much better way, in a positive manner. He feels much better, lighter, happier, alright, and his feelings are much better now. We go on to the next part. Now here again I have shown you the crow. Again, all of us have seen the crow around us in our surroundings. Crow, as you know, it is a symbol of something evil. That is what people believe. Some people believe. I don't believe. It's all your thoughts that are here in your mind. If you feel it is a positive thing, well, that is how it goes. But if you start thinking that particular image as negative, then definitely you also start thinking in the same lines. Crow is normally said to be an omen of evil. It's black in color. Okay. Again, the poet has chosen a hemlock tree, which is a poisonous tree. Both these two symbols, that is a crow and the hemlock tree, is taken by the poet to compare his negative mood. That is to show, to express that he was going through something really very bad that upsetted his mood for the day. Then below you can see two pictures. One is a hemlock tree which is shown during the winters. I love the tree. It looks so beautiful. White in color, alright, that's because of the snowflakes that have covered the tree. And the second picture is of the hemlock tree during summers, nice and green, alright. The poet has taken these two objects, that's the crow and the hemlock tree, to convey his mood. Let us look at the poetic devices, the figures of speech. Now the first figure of speech in the first stanza of the poem is dust of snow. Yeah. Now dust of snow, why dust of snow is a metaphor? It is dust. Small particles of snow stands for a simple good action. So dust of snow is a metaphor. We move on to the second figure of speech, alliteration. Has given my heart. Alright. Now students, I have underlined H. Alright. In both the words, has and heart. See the sound of H, her, has been repeated in both the words. So it's a alliteration. And similarly we have another one, saved some. The sound of sir is repeated in the words. So it's an alliteration. Learning about the poetry a little bit, just to what we have gone through, a poet feels much happier after crow causes snow to fall on him. I'm sure everybody by now has understood the poem. The way the crow shook down the dust of snow on the poet has made all the difference in the poet's life. He feels lighter, he feels much positive, he feels happier. Well, many times even we have gone through such kind of mood swings. Even I felt very upset during the day, early morning, sometimes the day starts very badly. But it's up to you whether you are going to continue the rest of the day in the same mood or you are going to use the rest of the day in a happier one, alright, being happy. Very important to be very positive. See, right now we are in a pandemic, alright, we are going through such bad experiences, so many people have died, the entire world is going through a very bad change. Should we also have a negative mind in this situation? Maybe we can look at things in a better way, in a positive way, alright. Let's be very hopeful. From what we have experienced, let's think that the days ahead are going to be much better. Let's have a ray of hope. And that's exactly what the poet Robert Frost tells us. No matter what we experience in our life, alright, whether it's good or bad, it's up to each one of us to change ourselves, to change our mood. We cannot remain in the same mood. It definitely will spoil the rest of the day. Students, we also have some words, of course. Some of them are very easy, which you already know. I have underlined those words. Crow is a black bird, which all of you know, of course. Dirt, tiny pieces of dirt or other material that is fallen on the ground. Heart, a part of the body that pumps blood. Now what is a hemlock tree? It is a kind of a tree that stays green all winter. But why does it look white? That's because the snow falls on the hemlock tree and covers it and therefore gives a whitish look. And what's the meaning of rude? Rude means was sorry about. Alright, he was regretting. He didn't want to spend the rest of the day from being bad, alright, he wanted to change it, and that simple action of the crow changed the poet's mood. From a negative one, he became positive. Now students, this poem has got a beautiful message to convey. I'm sure all of you would like to listen to the message of this poem, Dust of Snow. This message is a very positive one, alright, so please listen to it very carefully. Depression and hopelessness do come in our heart, spirit and mood at times. But we need to remember one thing, that every dark cloud has a silver lining. Earlier, the poet was feeling very sad, he was feeling hopeless, he was depressed, and he even thought that the entire day would go wasted. But suddenly the falling of the fine dust of snow brings a sudden change in his mood. The feeling of regret transformed into cheerfulness. He realizes that everything is not lost. The sudden change cheers his heart and mood. So you see, the negative things around us cannot affect us if we are positive. So remember, the bottom line is we all need to be very positive in our life. The poet was affected by two negative things, but he took the positivity of the snow and he changed his mood from remorsefulness to cheerfulness. From negative, it changed into a positive one. This is how we all need to cope up in our life. So students, this is the strong message that each one of you need to get from the poem, The Dust of Snow. No matter what you are experiencing in your life, be cheerful, be happy, look out for someone who can help you out. Moral of this poem is, don't waste your day in a bad thought. If you're feeling low or depressed, talk to someone. Well, I do it many times. Many times we need a shoulder. We need to cry with somebody. If you find someone whom you can confide in, please make sure that you speak to that person and try to sort out whatever you're going through in your life. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. One of my favorite quote, which is written by John Milton. Students, let us now continue with the next poem, Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. How do you think the world will come to an end? Well, I think the world will come to an end due to global warming. What do you feel? Some believe that the world will come to an end as a result of global warming. Some are of the view that it may end due to extreme freezing. And looking at the current climatic conditions of the world, both seem possible. But I think the world can also disintegrate due to many other reasons. Now, what could be the reasons? Due to greed, selfishness, anger, jealousy, hatred for one another, etc. All these things can be put together, and this also definitely can bring to the end of the world. And that is what the poet Robert Frost tries to convey in this poem, Fire and Ice. He says, the world will end with these two things, that is fire and ice. Before we read the poem loud, students, let us learn about the poet Robert Frost. Robert Frost was an American poet. His work was initially published in England before it was published in America. He became one of America's rare public figures, almost an artistic institution. He was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in 1960 for his poetic works. Robert Frost has also won a lot of awards, recognition all over the world for his beautiful poems about life and various other situations. Now, what is the theme of this poem? Destructive potential of hatred and desire. In this poem, the poet refers to two predictions of how the world will come to an end. Some say it will end in fire, whereas others say it will end in ice. According to the poet, fire stands for greed. Fire is a very strong element, right? It stands for greed, avarice, selfishness, desire. Ice, what does it stand for? It stands for man's hatred for each other. And the poet says, together with fire and ice, the world will be totally destroyed. This is what the poet believes in. Now students, let us read the poem aloud. Kindly refer to your textbook as I read it aloud to you. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Beautiful poem written by Robert Frost. Students, let's take the first part of the poem, the first stanza. Now, some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. So the poet says that he has often heard people saying that the world will come to an end in two ways. Some say in fire and some say in ice. Very interestingly, he has used these two elements. Which are the two elements, students? Please keep this in mind. Two elements are fire and ice. He has used these to tell us that the world is going to come to an end with fire and ice. He is comparing these two elements to our human emotions. What are the human emotions he is referring to? Fire is compared to desire and ice is compared to hatred. So students, please keep this in mind. The two elements are compared to our human emotions. Fire is compared to desire and ice is compared to hatred. Alright? There's so much of hatred in this world. Hatred for one another, for again reasons best known to us. You have seen hatred all around you. Sometimes maybe in your own classroom or maybe amongst your peer groups. Alright, again for reasons best known to you. Desire. All of us have got desire. You have got a desire to buy a new dress. You have a desire to buy a new car. Are you satisfied living in your house? Are you satisfied with the phone that you have? Well, I'm sure you're not. I'm not. Every time I think, okay, I should change my phone. I should go for a new one. And that's exactly what everybody feels. So these desires that humans have got can bring to the end of the world. Because desires are never ending. They keep on going on, all right. So together with these two very strong emotions that the poet tries to bring about, that is desire and hatred, he says the world can come to an end. Now what is ice equated to? I have just explained to you. Ice, he says, is hatred, all right. So these two elements, desire and hatred, can bring an end to the world. So from what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. So the poet feels that fire is also very dangerous, okay. It just grows. Fire just grows, right? Our desires also never come to an end. As I just told you, we have so many human desires. We want to have new things and we keep on desiring. So the poet says he favors those people who say that the world will come to an end in fire. That is desire. Fire, desire. Please keep this in mind, alright? Now, I hope you have understood the first stanza. Let's move on to the next part of the poem. That's the second stanza. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Beautiful lines of the poem. So what's the meaning of perish? Perish means to die. Yeah, you can see the word there in the second stanza. First line, perish means die. You can also refer it to be destroyed. How will this world be destroyed? The poet is telling us the world will be destroyed by two elements, that is fire and ice, which is comparing to human emotions, desire and hatred. So if the world is going to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate. So he says, I know enough of hatred. Alright, he is comparing ice to hatred. He feels there is lot of hatred in this world. So many silent wars amongst each other. One friend doesn't want to talk to the other one. This is a silent war. Don't you think so? Alright, sometimes you're just quiet, you're very cold towards the other person. You don't want to show what's going on. You just try to give a very cold shoulder to the other person. And then your friend or the other person might start thinking, what's going on? What's wrong? So these are called silent wars, alright. And this is how we create a lot of damage to one's life or even to others' lives. So there are silent wars and people have become very, very insensitive to others. We don't just care about others. Okay, there are few good Samaritans as well who really care, have a lot of concern, love, affection. Alright, they are so generous. Nowadays, the things going on, you see such good people coming out and helping one another. Well, student, that is the need of the hour. We need to spread love. We need to spread happiness, alright, amongst us. No matter what the situation is, I know all of us are going through bad times, but we all need to do something good, alright, so that we can live in a world which is safe and happy to live in. So he says for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So the earth, what will happen to it? It will become frozen. Okay, because of all these activities of human beings where humans are not even bothered about each other, very insensitive, alright, callous attitude, selfishness, jealousy, avarice, all this is definitely going to bring the world to an end. So he says, so for destruction, ice is also great, alright, ice is hatred, and he says it is sufficient. It is enough for this world to come to an end. You see how one country is having hatred for another. Alright, each country sometimes doesn't even think good about the other. And these times are the ones where we need to give moral support to each other besides the other type of support as well. So if we do not help each other during these kind of crises, then the world is definitely going to come to an end. Ice is also equally good like fire to destroy the world. So he is comparing fire and ice to desire and hatred. So these two emotions are equally enough for the world to come to an end. Students, this poem is explained to you, that is both the stanzas. I think you have understood the two stanzas of the poem. In short, the poem tells us about how this world will come to an end. Alright, keep in mind these two strong emotions. One is desire, that is fire is compared to desire, and the second one is hatred. What is hatred compared to? Ice. These are two human emotions. They are, alright, enough to bring the world to an end. Now students, we have some figures of speech here in the poem. The first figure of speech is a repetition. What is a repetition? the repetition of a word or expression at the start of 2 or more consecutive lines. So, example is some say, alright, is repeated at the start of stanzas 1 and 2. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. So, you see the 2 words, some say, they are repeated in the first and in the second line. So, which figure of speech is this? It is a repetition. We move on to the next figure of speech, personification. What is a personification? Just to take you back, it is to give human qualities to inanimate objects. Alright, so fire and ice are 2 objects that can bring about destruction. So, it is a personification. We move on to the third figure of speech, alliteration. Now, here you will see some say the world will. Now, I will just explain to you what is an alliteration. It is the repetition of a consonant sound at the start of 2 or more closely placed words. You all know what is the alliteration, right? So, in the first line there, some say the world will. See, I have underlined the alphabet W, no? So, it is the sound of the alphabet W, alright. So, it is an alliteration. And then again I have given you example of another figure of speech. I hold with those who favor fire. That is the sound of the word fir, F, in both the words. So, it is a alliteration. Now, which are the 2 symbols used in the poem? Fire and ice, that all of you by now know it. Students, before I conclude, I am going to be giving you a summary of this poem. Fire and Ice is a strong symbolic poem where fire is used as the emotion of desire and ice that of hatred. Robert Frost has used the idea of people who have their own explanation for the end of the world. He feels that something that fire alone can destroy life on earth, while something that ice is equally good to lead us to the end of the world. If fire would lead to rapid destruction, ice would lead to silent damage. The poem very artistically underpins the philosophy that if we let our emotions rule us and if we don't control them, they will surely bring us all to the verge of chaos. What is the meaning of chaos? Chaos means confusion. Of course, it can bring a lot of chaos in our life. All we have to do is have a control of our emotions. And which 2 emotions I am talking about? I am talking about hatred and I am talking about desire. These are strong emotions. All we got to do is have a control on our emotions. Students, this is a beautiful thought I would like you to be reading. Inner peace begins the moment you choose not to allow another person or event to control your emotions. Let your inner peace come from within. Let nobody rule your life. Whatever you want to do in your life, take your own decisions, be happy, stay safe. Students, I'm going to leave you with this thought. I'm stronger than depression and I'm braver than loneliness, and nothing will ever exhaust me. Till then, it's teacher Sandra here saying bye to you. I hope you all stay safe, be good and take care of yourselves. Thank you.